Happy September! If you haven't already, it's time to start school and fall sports, and maybe some of you are starting to plan for Christmas. But let's not get ahead of ourselves quite yet. September is a great month, and for many of us is the start of a new school year of ministry, and we couldn't be happier that you're spending it with 252 Kids. We're a month into our new scope and cycle as we've been taking this school year to travel through God's one big story. We can't wait to continue that journey this month with the Life app of Trust. Trust is putting your confidence in someone you can depend on. Kids trust things all the time, from the chair they use during the school day, to their mom or dad they trust will have food for them to eat, to you, their church leader, who they trust will give them an incredible experience while they're at church. Trust is an important response to the character of God. That's why we've chosen Proverbs 3:5 as our memory verse. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. We hope kids will remember that relying on our own understanding can get us in trouble sometimes. On the other hand, when we trust God no matter what, our trust is grounded in God's love for us and His willingness to do whatever it takes to have a relationship with us. The Bible is full of people who knew firsthand what trusting God was all about. And for September, we focus on two of them. The first is Jacob. We kick off the month with our preteens asking a foundational question for their faith. What makes God trustworthy? Jacob might have wondered that himself after swindling his brother's birthright and blessing out from under him. But in a dream, God renewed the covenant that He started with Jacob's grandfather Abraham. God always keeps His promises. Bottom line, you can trust God no matter what. For the rest of the month, we looked through Scripture to find the best stories to help kids unpack this idea of trust. We kept coming back to Jacob's son, Joseph. Joseph found himself in some of the craziest situations throughout his life, yet time and again, Joseph trusted God and found hope in Him. So each week this month, we'll take a closer look at Joseph's life and discover something about how we can trust God and the people He's put in our lives. In week 2, our preteens start with the question, what does it look like to trust God? This will be a crucial question as kids get older and start developing a faith of their own. Joseph learned this through difficulty as his brothers sell him to a band of traders headed to Egypt. He must have felt scared and completely alone. Thankfully, God was always with him. God is with us too. Bottom line, when you think you're alone, you can trust God is with you. As we continue Joseph's story in week 3, we discover that while Joseph was thrown into prison for a crime he didn't commit, God helped him interpret a couple of dreams that came true. He thought this was his chance to get out of jail. Instead, Joseph was forgotten and stayed in prison several more years. Joseph must have been confused at what God was doing. We get confused about that too, which is why our preteens will ask the question, when is it hard to trust God? And we'll land on the bottom line, when life doesn't make sense, you can trust God is with you. In week 4, we get personal as we ask, what do you need to trust God with right now? Joseph seemed to continually find himself in situations where he needed to trust God. Pharaoh had a dream that no one could interpret. It's in this moment the king's cupbearer, who was in prison with Joseph, remembered how Joseph had interpreted his dream. At once, Pharaoh sent for Joseph. He went and with God's help interpreted the dreams and offered a plan for helping Egypt survive the famine that God said is coming. Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of the entire kingdom. Bottom line, when the pressure is on, you can trust that God is with you. We end the month with the question, when have you had to trust God? We want kids to look back and remember the times when God helped them through difficult situations. This is exactly what God did for Joseph. The famine had spread far and wide, and Joseph's brothers made the trek down to Egypt. And sure enough, they ended up right in front of Joseph. After some back and forth over several weeks, Joseph couldn't stand it any longer. He revealed himself to his brothers. Bottom line, you can trust God has a plan. Now, let's see how kids will experience these stories throughout the curriculum. To bring these stories to life, we've decided to go on a trek, an adventure in trust. From the map to the trail markers to the person in charge of the journey, trust is something found on every adventure. Make trust come alive by theming your environment like a campground or a stop on the Appalachian Trail. Fill the stage with all the camping and outdoor gear you can find. We have all sorts of ideas in the Create the Environment document found in the Prelude folder in your downloads. We've also included a fun volunteer appreciation idea to show your volunteers just how much you trust them to take care of the kids in your ministry. Now, let's find out what's happening in large group. We'll continue to create a visual timeline throughout the year. Each week will include visuals that you can print out and use to visualize God's one big story. These also show up as slides to show during your host outro for all the 252 Kids large group scripts. If you're using the K5 starter script, for the week 3 story, you'll need to pre-select a volunteer who can put on different hats and do some simple acting as the story characters. You'll also probably want to run through this a few times before the kids arrive. For the week 4 story, we include live sketching during the story. You can do this yourself, but for a smoother telling of the story, have another person do the sketching while you tell it. Then for the game in week 5, you'll need a few camping props. Plan ahead to borrow what you need. For the K5 Plus script, the host has a role in the story weeks 1, 3, and 4. Don't worry, it's nothing too big, but you will need to plan for it. For the week 4 game, you'll need a fly swatter for each 5th grader. We checked, and you can get those in bulk on Amazon for a decent price, or hit up every dollar store in town. For week 5, we have a really fun way to tell the Bible story with balloons. Get someone with artistic talent to draw the faces. If you have access to the premium tier and use the K3 script, just a couple of notes. The host has a role in the story during weeks 4 and 5, and for the game in week 5, you'll need an adult who can draw well. They'll be quickly drawing camping items on a flip chart. If you used 252 preteen scripts from the premium tier, we've included some fun camping-related games that get kids thinking about how they can trust each other and their small group leaders. And just a couple of notes. Week 1 includes a fun spin on Jacob's story using modern photos to represent what was happening in the Bible story. We think kids will think it's hysterical. And week 3's communicator script includes a fun way for the host to help the communicator. It's simple, but be sure to give them a heads up that you'll need them for most of large group. Remember, no matter what script you use, we include engaging ways for your kids and preteens to experience the Bible passages this month with visuals, props, costumes, and audience participation. Be sure to read the Getting Ready section at the top of the scripts for how to prepare and where to find the props and images you might need. But if you don't have a live storyteller every week, be sure to check out the media package or videos that can enhance your large group experience. 252 Story is created with your kindergarten through 3rd graders in mind and comes with intro-outro videos that help make a relevant tie-in to their life. And for your preteens, check out the So-and-So Show. The hosts are always up to something your preteens won't want to miss. And all of that sets up small group. Here are a few highlights we don't want you to miss. First of all, no matter what script you use, for those of you who have kids with special needs in your ministry, make sure you check out the special needs adaptations available in your curriculum downloader. Those leader guides include ideas and suggestions for adapting the activities and conversations to fit the needs of all kids who attend your ministry. The only other major note for small group this month is found in K1, week 2. K1 has 2 colorful but somewhat involved crafts. If you have a lot of kids in your ministry, we know this might be challenging. So we'd recommend making sure you do the sock caterpillars as a fun, creative way to review the story. Everything else is pretty straightforward for this month. Take a look at what's available and which activities might work best for your environment and which ones might fit best for the personality of your groups. We've got some cool things planned, like science experiments to demonstrate the abstract concept of being under pressure, activities to let kids use their creativity to retell the Bible story, and some great preteen conversation starter games and activities. And last but not least, be sure to check out the new and improved 252 FX. FX is so happy to introduce some changes this month that will make creating an environment that reaches parents and kids more exciting and effective than ever before. Take a look at the September script and you'll see a new order of segments that move from a broad look at the theme for the month and then get more focused toward a single question and application toward the end of the event. One of the features we are most excited about is that each week you'll have a time for families to briefly start a discussion of a question designed to go home with them. What else is new for FX this month? Well, it's a lot more interactive. With 3 specific segments each week that include games and activities that involve parents and kids from your audience in unforgettable ways, your families will easily remember the experience. So specifically, let's walk through the first week of September. Week 1 kicks off our Trust Trek with a great blindfolded obstacle course. This game will be repeated in weeks 3 and 5 for the pre-experience game. Notice that this new segment, Pre-Experience Game, gives you the option to start the energy and fun for FX even before everyone arrives in the space. The actual FX hasn't been formally started, but even as parents and kids enter the room, they will already know this is a welcoming environment with all kinds of possibilities for fun. After an activity song, the hosts, comic and credible, will introduce the Life app, then move into a little comic host mind reading trick. The word character is Reginald Fastidious III, who incorporates some sound effect artists from your audience. Right after word is when the family question segment comes into effect. We can't wait to hear how this works for the families who attend your FX. Then a final game that's a bit more focused on trust between parents and kids. It's called the Gorp game, and it could get messy. Then we have another song and wrap up, so that's 3 or 4 cast members, 2 songs, and a whole lot of interaction. We think the new interactive times and the focus on a few characters will allow you to more easily produce an effective FX for your community. Of course, if you have any questions, be sure to ask your Orange specialist. They're ready and waiting to help you take this month and all your months using 252 to the next level. And check out our Facebook 252 Partners community, where you can ask questions and share ideas with literally thousands of other leaders just like you. Have a great month.